Good morning, good afternoon, and welcome to today's CMS Wire webinar, Make Customer Experience Easy. That's the key word, right? Everybody's looking to make things a little bit easier, so welcome. Thank you for taking time out of your schedules and joining us. Here's a loose overview of the timings of today's presentation. Please do not hold me to these. If I was held accountable to these timings exactly, I'd be in big trouble sometimes. So don't hold me to these, just a loose overview of the timings of today's presentation. If you have a question during the webinar, please do not hesitate to submit that as it pops into your head. Just click on the Ask a Question tab appearing below our webcams right now. Click there, type your question in, and click the Submit button. We'll be keeping track of those in the background here, and we'll have some time for audience questions towards the end of the event. Now, in that Ask a Question tab, you can also let me know if you're experiencing any technical issues. Submit those there in the Ask a Question tab, and I'll be able to work with you directly that way to get your issues resolved. Knock on wood, hopefully we don't need that. But if you do need me for some tech assistance, just submit that in the Ask a Question tab. Not to be confused with the Ask a Question tab, it's right below it, but that's the audience chat. You can chat with your fellow attendees. I already see plenty of you in there. Some people from New Jersey, Iowa, I'm your neighbor here in Illinois, California. So jump in that audience chat and let us know where you're joining from. I am here outside of the Chicago land suburbs. I'm way out there, about as far west as you can get without becoming rural Illinois. But I like to see where we get a mixture from. A lot of times it is from around the world, and I think that's pretty cool to see. So let us know where you're joining from in that audience chat. Here's a little bit about CMS Wire. If you're here, you probably know who we are, but if you're new, welcome. Thank you for joining us. We were founded in 2003. We cover 3 primary topic areas: digital customer experience, digital workplace, information management. You can read some of our great content from our many contributors and editors here, all at cmswire.com, where you can also register for upcoming webinars like today's and our conferences coming up, our Connect conference in May down in Austin, Texas. You can find out some information about that on cmswire.com. We also have a mobile app that you can download and take us with you on the go if you want. All right, I'm very happy to be joined by today's sponsors over at Actian, and thank you to Actian for making today's webinar possible. Actian Avalanche Cloud Data Platform is a fully managed, affordable, and easy-to-use cloud data platform that eliminates data silos through built-in self-service integration of disparate and diverse data and powers advanced analytics, processing, reporting, and visualizations so companies can improve automation, decision support, and other data-driven tasks that deliver rapid innovation and business process. So I'm very happy to be joined by a couple guests from Actian that you can see on my screen now, and that is Becky Staker and Dominic Sartorio. So you all are probably tired of listening to me speak at this point. You're like, Alec, let's get to the content. So we're going to do that now. I'm going to pass things over to Becky to get things started. Let us know a little bit about the webinar today and just take things away. So Becky, over to you.
Thank you, Alec. Really appreciate that warm introduction. And thank you to the invitation to CMS Wire for this opportunity to speak to you all about making customer experience easy. We live in a very complicated world, and we want today at least give you an opportunity to have a few takeaways of how you can make your customer experience easier at your organization. My name is Becky Staker. I'm our Vice President of Customer Experience. I joined Actian a few months ago, and really my role is to look across our entire customer journey of our customers that work with Actian and help find ways to improve his experiences and optimize the value of working with Actian. Before I introduce my co-speaker here today, a little bit about Actian. We are a cloud data platform. We are part of HCL Software's Data Analytics Insights division. So we know data very well. We've known this space for over 50 years. And so we're really excited today to talk to you about some of the things that we've learned and also maybe some key takeaways that you can take back to your customer experience programs today and how to make things easier. I'm joined here today by my colleague, Dominic Sartorio. He is our Senior Vice President of Products here at Actian, and he brings a wealth of experience in product strategy, the overall market around data. I'll let him get to that in just a few moments, but just honored to be joined by Dominic. He, like I said, brings a wealth of experience and thought leadership that he'll be sharing with you today. So what do we plan to cover today? There are 3 main things that we will want you to take away from our session today and what you're going to learn more about. First of all, we're going to talk to you about the new normal. The world's changed dramatically in the last couple of years, no doubt. But also it's how do you respond to this new normal, this new world we're in around customer analytics, and take advantage of those opportunities to you as CX leaders and stakeholders. So Dominic's going to walk us through that, and then we'll turn it to me, and I'll talk about the opportunities for you all that we feel are in the new normal. What are things that you can do about it today and bringing your data together? And then also, how do you make that happen? How do you make customer experience easy? And I'm going to talk a little bit about how we're thinking about here at Actium, but also some of the solutions we do offer to the market to make this a bit easier on us all and this new normal. That being said, I'm going to turn over to Dominic to kick us off around giving us the bigger picture today. Dominic.
Thank you, Becky, and likewise, thank you, Alec and CMS Wire for the opportunity to present here today. So as Becky said, customer experience can be as challenging as ever in the new normal, and I will speak to the nature of the new normal and what makes customer experience challenging in it, and I'll also give a broader market overview, which has guided our product strategy and direction since the early days of the Actium Cloud Data Platform several years ago, and can also highlight some of the successes and use cases that our customers have achieved today. So first, let's start with some data, like what our customers really doing out there. And so Gartner ran a survey. This was very late in 2021, when we were still in the midst of the pandemic, regarding what are most organizations doing in terms of next generation data and analytics, what are the goals of those projects, and how are they measuring the success of those projects. And it was rather stark. By far the top reasons were selling to customers, engaging with customers, reducing churn, improving the customer experience. So anything and everything related to engaging with customers and making sure their needs were met and they were having a great experience working with the organization. And this is in stark contrast to previous years where other factors may have come to the forefront, like digital transformations or moving to the cloud, or cost reductions or so forth. That year it was very stark, customers first. So what's been going on over the last 3 years? Obviously, we are in a new normal. We've lived through a pandemic, and it's not just the pandemic. There have been other major significant events going on around the world. Many of them were unpredictable, and all of them impacted customers, employees, partner ecosystem, indeed the world we live in, and impacted them in rather unpredictable ways. So whether it's the pandemic itself or leading to the new normal of many people working from home, doing business online instead of in person. Then you had supply chain shocks, inflation, which affects the price and availability of goods and services, which then leads to questions, how do we optimize for pricing and margin, and what costs can we pass to our customers? You have geopolitical issues around the world, war in Ukraine, et cetera, which also led to more disruptions. And finally, you have social justice and political unrest, not just in the United States and in many parts of the world, which also affects customer behaviors and also employees and other stakeholders that your organization works with. So all of these were rather unpredictable events, which led to significant changes in customer behaviors and how customers want to interact with their organizations they do business with. And by and large, organizations that were prepared and did well during this new normal so far are organizations that had good real-time, up-to-date data of how their customers and broader ecosystem were being affected, and were able to harness that data to deliver good insights that can inform next best action and inform not just your traditional business intelligence people, data analysts, but inform the people in the trenches, customer service people, point of sales folks, folks manning the help desk, supply chain managers, store managers. So people who are out in the front lines who have to make those many critical, little but critical day-to-day decisions that then in turn result in good customer experience and the ability to engage with customers well. So organizations that could harness data in real time, deliver insights to those people were the winners, and organizations that could not did in fact struggle. But this isn't easy to do. If it's so obvious that you need to do this, deliver such insights in real time to the people that need it to make the right decisions in the moment, why do many organizations struggle with this? Well, data is hard. Harnessing data that's often scattered in different places can be hard. Many data is stuck in silos. Many different SaaS applications, on-premise applications. If you're doing digital engagement, you are probably also dealing with social media. You're engaging with customers on various devices, smartphones, etc. Weblog data. So data coming from a lot of different places, but all of which you have to aggregate to have that good, clean, 360-degree view of how your customers are engaging throughout your organization, and what is your organization doing internally or internal business processes to deliver against their expectations. Another challenge is data integrity. Is that data clean? Is it accurate? Even if it's clean and accurate, data may be formatted and represented differently across different systems. So that data needs to be integrated into a common view that is correct and accurate. Next, there's a diversity of users of data. As I mentioned earlier, this is not just about delivering data to your traditional data and business analysts, but that data has to be delivered in the right context, in the right form, to end users in the trenches, and in the context that makes sense to them, in the applications and in the work streams that they're working with on a day-to-day basis. So that's also an access issue. How do you get that data delivered in the right form? Wasted time. So even if you have the tools and the skills and the processes in place to integrate and deliver data like this, it can take a lot of time. So many organizations knew what they needed to do, but were flat-footed. It took weeks or even months to build out the data pipelines, load the right schemas, and then make it accessible to the right clients. So that's another challenge, the time it takes, and needing the tools so you can be much more agile, get things stood up quickly, and then be able to iterate easily as your requirements change. And finally, and I'd say at least as importantly, real time. The new normal is unpredictable. During the pandemic, lockdowns could happen in a county or a city at any time. Supply chain disruptions could happen at any time. And if you weren't able to harness that data like same day or even same hour, then your organization was caught flat-footed. If you were looking at the previous weeks or previous months' batch data, that would be too late. So these are real-time data feeds, and the ability to consistently keep your analytic data set up to date in real time without affecting downstream query performance, or the ability for those end users to get those insights in real time is very important. So now let's translate this general problem of data integration and availability and so on to the use case of customer data analytics. Here at Actian, what we have heard over and over again from our customers who are doing this with our platform, and by and large, we're selling to the line of business. We are selling to customer experience leaders, marketing and sales operations leaders, and so forth. We're not selling to IT generally. We're selling to those department and line of business stakeholders. They consistently say they want control. They have the staff, the analysts or data engineers who can do this work, but they want to be in control. And what they say is we need control of the ability to collect data from applications that by and large they also control. It could be Salesforce, ServiceNow, other applications. They want the ability to explore, make sure they're using the right data, and they want to take ownership of the pipelines, the schemas, and then the downstream applications within which those analytics are embedded. And why do they want control? Because they understand the end goal. They understand what a good customer experience is for them. They understand how to measure that, and they understand better than anybody else how to react and respond if those metrics show that their experience is falling short. So just to get a window of customer experience and providing a unified view of customer experience, a typical organization, really of any size, has this great diversity of applications and platforms that they're using as part of their whole customer experience initiatives. They may have a marketing program where they're doing brand and demand activity. Obviously, they have a supply chain to deliver products to the right place at the right time, a CRM to manage customer relationships. And I won't drain the slide, but you can see there's a lot of different data silos, as it were, that most of you who are customer experience specialists are going to be very familiar with. But you need to unify all of that into a single view. Not only unify it, but make sure it is clean and accurate and also timely. In many cases, looking at yesterday's or older data, not sufficient. It needs to be kept up to date in near real time. And the common silos that we encounter are depicted here. So Salesforce, Snowflake, you may be an existing enterprise data warehouse, Marketo, other digital applications. So all over the place, this data is scattered. And this leads to the long lead times often in getting the right customer view to support a customer experience initiative. It can take a lot of time to integrate all of this. So putting all of this together, so the main takeaway here from a product perspective is the need is a unified data platform that allows connecting to all of these disparate data sources, rapidly building out those data pipelines with the joins and the mapping and correcting of data quality issues, delivering it to an analytics schema, which is designed and intended for near real-time analytics. And then on the other side of that schema, you've enabled a broad diversity of clients, and not just traditional business intelligence, but also applications and tools that your end users in the trenches can use to understand those insights and take the right action. And that's exactly what the Actian data platform is. It's a unification of all those disparate components into a single user experience to enable that agility and then subsequent incremental improvement to make your customer experience initiatives a success on an ongoing basis. So now I'll hand back over to Becky, who'll talk more about what this kind of customer experience solution on the Actian data platform will look like. Back to you, Becky.
Thanks, Dominic. Thanks for walking us through the new normal and the bigger picture of how things are changing rapidly, right? So obviously what Dominic mentioned is data is hard, right? It's not easy. Things are disparate silos, right? So what is an opportunity for us as CX stakeholders? How can we make a difference? How can we make this easier for us, knowing that a lot of our data lives in these different areas that are siloed, but also can provide tremendous value once you unify and look at some of the signals in the data to either predict customer outcomes or at least, understand them, right? Understand the signals. So we actually conducted a survey last fall about 450 senior leaders. These are your peers, not just CX stakeholders. So this is the broad business, right? So these are business leaders, data leaders across the board to really understand their data analytics journey and what are some of the challenges and opportunities, right? So one of the things that we learned is over 50% of companies are measuring and improving customer analytics through the use case of a customer 360. They realize the value and importance of actually using that data to predict business outcomes, but also improve their overall customer experiences. As we were conducting the survey, one of the things that did come out in terms of the top use cases is that customer 360, customer analytics, as the top leading use case across our survey respondents, which we as CX leaders know that. We know the value, we know the importance, but our peers are also recognizing that there's a lot of value and opportunity for us, especially as a competitive advantage, to leverage that data to help improve our overall customer experience at our organizations. We also surveyed them on what are the top KPIs you're tracking across the business, and customer experience KPIs was one of the top out of the 5 or so. So this just shows there's value, there's an intense focus, there's also a recognition that this is important to a business. And so how can we leverage that as an opportunity as CX stakeholders, whether you're on the marketing side or any parts of the customer journey, to make this easier and bring opportunities to our business? And so one of the first things we like to do is look at what are the most common areas to look at that data, find those signals. And so these are from our customers and in our space, the most common customer marketing analytics projects that we see across the board. And there's really 3 distinct phases of that journey that we're seeing some of these data points surface, right? So if you think about the acquisition, the early journey, the early buyer journey, right? What you're trying to do here is to hopefully leverage as much of the CRM data that's hopefully clean, right, or MarTech data from your MarTech stack. You're trying to really find that information and find the signals and create that ideal customer profile. How can you target the right customers and find that repeatable, scalable way to bring in new customers that are very similar to what those maybe likes, behaviors, needs, wants, et cetera, right, from that ideal customer profile. And that also leads to opportunities for segmentation. How can you go deeper? What are some new personas that you can leverage, right, leverage in that data? Ultimately leading to campaigns, right? How can you campaign and target those ultimate profiles? Once you become a customer, right, it's also about retention and providing value to that customer for repeatable business. So this is knowing your customer, understanding their needs, their behaviors, their wants, their desires, what's important to them, what do they find value, how satisfied they are with your product or your service. That leads to loyalty, right, long-term retention of that customer. And so you may be looking at data points such as account scoring, churn prediction, persona scoring, and ultimately it's about how engaged is our customer with us, with our product and service, and how can we continue that journey with that customer long term. Which also leads to expanding the customer, right? So these are around looking at the customer analytics, right? What was important to them? How can we identify upsell, cross-sell opportunities? How can we automate maybe some communications that might be personalized for that customer for expansion to find the next use case that we can help them with to solve their challenges, right? Beyond our core use case for the customer they became. So as you can see, there's multiple of opportunities for us to engage with that customer, and there's a lot of data behind these key areas. So I'm going to actually walk you through how do you do this, right? How do you make this relevant? How do you distill this down to something that can be actionable? And so what we're trying to achieve here is unification of that data to build that consolidated customer profile. You may have data that lives in many different formats. It could be through your CRM, like we mentioned, your MarTech stack. You could have flat files. Maybe you're appending data in an Excel format or CSV, right? It comes in many different formats. So how do we bring that together into an easy way to look at that data, to unify it, but ultimately understand the data, understand the signals, understand queries that are possible with what you're trying to achieve in terms of the outcomes. So just kind of walk you through it. Essentially what we're trying to do here is understand the data we have available to us, right? We want to access that data through a single platform environment, what we call a single pane of glass that everyone can look at the same view. We're also enhancing and enriching that data. So we're bringing it all together with additional data that may be impactful. We're analyzing that data. We're looking at segmentation. We're looking at quality. We're looking at how can we create the profiles and ultimately creating that ideal customer profile, or at least the customer profile you have today to understand the full picture, and then continue to optimize that over time. So hopefully this gives you just kind of a framework for thinking about how you could unify these different areas. But ultimately what we're trying to achieve here is unification leads to personalization opportunities. We want to understand and know our customers, our ideal customers, so we can personalize the experience for them. We can understand what's relevant for them. We can help tailor communications to them or services, right, where it might make sense for their use case. We're trying to personalize an experience. And these days, that's table stakes. We all know that personalization is key, right, to making sure we optimize that customer experience. But ultimately it leads to the business outcomes we're trying to achieve as CX stakeholders, which is loyalty, retention, expansion, satisfaction. Ultimately, what we're trying to do here is retain our customers and help grow along with them. So tremendous opportunities of what could be possible. Now, how do we do this? So we're going to walk you through how we do this today. And I'll start with a little bit of an inside look here at Actian and how we're thinking about customer experience. I mentioned earlier in the webinar that I joined the company a few months ago and bring experience from the marketing side, from customer success, customer experience, working with large scale programs to smaller startups. And so one of the opportunities that I also found coming into this role is how do we make our own customer experience easy? We've invested in a number of initiatives around customer experience, customer success, targeting buyer journeys. And so we're also looking at our key initiatives and how do we bring our own data together? How do we actually execute and look at the signals on the data that we have available to our own programs? So we're going through a very similar exercise of we've got disparate silos for one of our programs. The information is coming from many different technology stacks that folks are having to pull, in some cases manually, having to pull that number manually. And so looking at that across the board, identifying what are the important KPIs that we want to track for this particular program, and then bringing that all together through a cloud data platform and looking at that holistically around the opportunities to look at the signals and improve key moments in that customer journey through this program we're working through. So going to talk you through how you do that and how we're approaching doing that for our own customer experience program here at Actian. So essentially what this is, and when you bring it all together in a cloud data platform, is you are trying to achieve what's called a customer data analytics hub. And this is a single pane that actually allows you to bring the data together to access, integrate, enrich that data into a single pane of view. And that way it provides opportunities for you to explore, to unify that data. And ultimately, you want to build some visualizations on top of that, right? To understand what's working, what's not, what are the signals, what's the funnel look like, what are those KPIs, and how do we visualize that from the business perspective, but also from a programmatics perspective so we can take action on the data we're seeing. And over time, it's to optimize, right? It's actually to create and design new experiences, right, that might be more relevant or personalized for a specific customer segment, or remove things that are not working, right? Measure what matters and then remove or continue to expand upon things that are working well. So this is all possible through a concept we call the Customer Data Analytics Hub. I'm going to break that down for you just a little bit further. So if you think about the concept of a hub, essentially what it is, it's actually enabling you to bring together real-time analysis by unifying that data with everyone in the business IT, data stakeholders, to have that single view of the data together. As you're probably all experiencing in your own organization, sometimes you can't get that easily, right? You have to go ask someone, or you've got to go access this other dashboard in this one place. This essentially brings it all together into one view that everyone can understand and action upon, right, within their own different use cases. But essentially, that's what the Data Hub is, to provide this information together into one unified view. And this is where the power of the cloud data platform comes into play. And one of the advantages and benefits is actually having the ability to have flexibility in how you integrate this data. Like we mentioned, data comes from many different sources, flat files, right? APIs, data connects directly. There are many opportunities to integrate this data. So our goal is to make that easier for you to connect the data together, and that's around our integration services or integration within the product. And so they may come from different environments, right? You may have data in GCP, Azure, AWS, right? Or maybe you have a hybrid where you've got some on-prem data, but you've also got some data in the cloud. And so how do you bring those together into a single pane of view so you actually can access all that data together? And then finally is, how do you look at the data? How do you understand? How do you analyze? How do you take action on the data? And that's where the power of BI technology comes into play. So example is Looker, right? I'm sure a lot of you use Looker to look at some snapshot information around your KPIs. Well, this enables you to bring all the data together into a single view. So you actually can use Power BI, Looker, Tableau, your tool of choice, right? Homegrown. We actually can look at the analytics behind that and take signals on the data and then evangelize that across the organization. So hopefully this just gives you a good kind of walkthrough conceptually of like what could be possible and essentially how we break it down and how we think about it here at Actian. And so just to show you a couple of their visuals, wanted to walk you through, kind of example of how you would look at data quality, right? So it's not just about bringing the data together. It's also what data is available to me. Where am I lacking? Where do I need to go clean data or enrich data? So this is an example built out through Power BI. We're flexible with many different BI tools, like I mentioned. So this is our Power BI dummy data example, de-identified data we wanted to share with you today. But essentially what this allows you to do is advanced modeling on the data quality aspects. And what we do have pre-built templates around these different monitors, but essentially what we're looking for is some key areas such as accuracy, completeness of the data, uniqueness of the data, validity, consistency, and integrity of the data. And so this view on top of the cloud data platform provides you of an overview across all the data you're bringing together and what is that quality level and how can you increase that, right? Or how can you improve upon the data that needs to be cleaned or maybe additional data that needs to be curated as part of your data platform. We also integrate within different tabs. If you look at the top right, you're going to see you've got Salesforce, SalesLoft, Marketo. So in this example, we are bringing together those three systems into one view and understanding across all the records and all three systems what's relevant, right? Where's the quality? Where do we need to continue to improve upon? So the view we're looking at right now is the Salesforce view. I'll jump along a little bit quicker here. This next view is, once you've got the data loaded, this view we just showed did show the end state, right, of all the data coming together. But equally as important is absolutely the customer analytics, right? So this is a Salesforce view, right, of all the records that are available to you in Salesforce, right, when you bring that unification of your CRM data together in combination with some of the other sources. Right, so this allows you a customer 360 view of your records, right? What's clean, what's available to you, how many records, targeting different segments you want to look at within your CRM data. So essentially it provides a layer of customer analytics on top of your different systems. So you actually can look at that in a much more easy to understand consolidated view of understanding your holistic view of your data. And so how do we do this, right? So showing you kind of the end state of what's possible. And this is where the Avalanche Cloud Data Platform does enable you, and it's very flexible and easy to bring these different data sources together. So this is the homepage of the Cloud Data Platform. You can see here, it walks you through 3 main steps of how you would actually connect, and then manage your data. So essentially what you're doing is you're creating what's called a data warehouse, which is a warehouse in the cloud where you're bringing your data together from all these different systems, right? Different endpoints, different APIs, different flat files. Essentially, you're connecting this into a warehouse state. So that first step is creating the warehouse to actually achieve that what's possible and bringing together the data. And then what you want to do is connect the data, right? So you're either loading data, maybe you've got some flat files you need to upload, or you're connecting directly to your Salesforce CRM, your Marketo, et cetera, right? Many different flexible endpoints that are possible. And then you're managing the analytics. So this is the third step where you're bringing on the Power BI, the Looker, the Tableau dashboards. And this is it. It's 3 steps. You're good to go, right? And then on top of that is, looking at the quality, looking at the analytics, and also giving you some opportunities to monitor the data. If you see the bottom right of the screen, you can look at your summary of what warehouses are running. Maybe there's some integrations that are not working currently. You need to go kind of reconnect. So we also provide ability for you to have a quick snapshot of where things stand and how you can, improve or action upon or even add additional data sources. And so lastly, just a quick little snapshot of what that looks like on the Connect side. It really is just a few steps of how that is connected through the platform. So essentially what you're doing is selecting a source to extract from. We offer a number of well-known sources that are most typical, but we have flexible ways to integrate the data as well. So if you don't see it on the system, we have other opportunities to bring that data into the system. But essentially what you're doing is you're connecting the data source, you're applying that to the warehouse you've built where you actually want to store that data. And that's it. You've got a few quick steps and then you're good to go, right? So start to get your data connected to the warehouse system, which you can enable the actions and the analytics on top of that. And that's really it. So, essentially, what are the benefits, right, of using a data platform to bring all this data together to create those insights? Well, first of all, it makes it easier for us as CX stakeholders to be more data-driven. We all aspire to that, but we also know it's going to be difficult, right, given the different data silos. Equally as important is also the real-time integrations. We want to make decisions based on real-time insights. And so it's important to have that information at our fingertips so we're not looking at last month's data or even last week's data or even yesterday's data. So we want to make sure we have the most up-to-date information to make those critical decisions around the CX experience. And then also, it's important to have a single view that everyone's looking at the same view, right? When we call a single pane of glass, where the business teams, the data teams, the IT teams can come together and actually look at the end state together. So there is a benefit of having this into a single system, so you actually can look at these consistently across the different teams. So I'll start to close out here before we open up Q&A with just a quick customer story of a organization we worked with and we're proud to call one of our customers. You may have heard of, if you live in the UK, the AA. So they are the leading provider of roadside assistance in the UK, similar to our AAA here in the US. But essentially what they are is they're a highly regarded brand. They have 3 million members that are part of the AA. And they also provide other services such as insurance brokerage, right? So home, auto, in addition to their roadside service. But one of the opportunities that they were facing for themselves is in the UK, a lot of the insurance comparison sites, they give top billing to insurers who respond fastest to the online queries, right? The online quote process, if you will. And they wanted to rise to the top each time. So to them, it was speed, but also attracting the right ideal customers, right, into that quote process. So they actually wanted to find an opportunity to make that a quicker process so they actually could get their data online much more quicker. And so they actually deploy the cloud data platform in AWS. And part of that is they had to bring together a hybrid model, right? They had on-prem data, they had cloud data. They also subscribed to many different data sources that would give them that ideal customer profile. So they had a challenge of trying to bring all that together into a consolidated view so they could provide that speed to value to their potential customers that were looking for the quote. Once they completed this work, they were able to get to milliseconds in terms of quotes that are automated through the billings website. And so this gave them a favorable position on the quote websites. So they could in turn be top of the list, right? Be the most relevant to customers that made the most sense for them in terms of their insurance and click through to actually work through the policy next steps. So this was possible based on they were looking for the real-time data insights. They wanted flexibility given their environment was a bit of a hybrid on-prem and cloud, but also speed was critical for them because they wanted to rise to the top each time when their customers were going through the quote process. So feel free to check out their story on Actian.com. We have got some other customer stories of customer analytics and where you may find some relevance there. We certainly can share with you additional use cases. And I'll start to just close it out here for the little bit about who we are. Like I mentioned, we are part of HCL Software's Data Analytics Insights division. However, we've been around for over 50 years. We know data. We actually were one of the pioneers in kind of early analytics in the data space. So we bring that expertise into how we think about our platform and our products, but also the customer experience. We know what our customers want. We continue to build upon what their needs are. So essentially what we're trying to do is help our customers manage the world's most critical data. And we're in many relevant spots across the world. And I'll just kind of close out with this final slide that you can actually try out the platform today. We have a free trial that's on our website. If you go to Actian.com, you'll see it on the top right-hand side, start free trial now, or this URL here, and go try it out. In fact, I personally would love your experience of trying out the platform as our CX leader here at Actian. And so please reach out to me. I'd love to hear your experience directly, but also, try it out, see if it might work for you, and try to bring together some data to see what may be possible for your organization. So thank you for this opportunity. I hope you've had a few key takeaways of what could be possible and personally what I'm excited about what we're going to do here at CX here at Actian and be happy to speak with you further. Please don't hesitate to reach out. And Alec, I'll turn it over to you for questions.
All right, Becky, thank you. And thank you, Dominic. What we're going to do now is get into some questions here. So keep submitting them. We have some time, everybody. We already have quite a few in the queue, but if you have a question, don't hesitate to submit that in the Ask Questions tab. We're going to start now with a question that I have here from Luis, and I'll start with you on this, Dominic. The question is, do you have any suggestions on key data points to take from CX to validate with a customer journey or buyer persona?
Yeah, I can start, and then I'll invite Becky to comment as well. So the top buyer persona for a solution like this, we find is very much those leaders, those stakeholders who have the responsibility of owning customer experience. So the Becky Staker equivalent in your organization. And if that title doesn't exist, it could be whoever heads up customer service or whoever heads up sales and marketing operations. So it definitely is that function leader or line of business leader, because they're the ones feeling the pain of how hard it is to ensure great customer experience in the new normal. And they're also the ones who own the success metrics. Now, in terms of key data points, and we encourage this in our own implementation efforts with our customers, is align with the KPIs that are most directly relevant to customer experience. CSAT scores, churn scores, the various digital engagement scores that are out there in the industry, so that as you're building out your analytic schemas and you're delivering that data to key stakeholders. And by the way, Avalanche also has the ability to do usage monitoring, and so you can see visually, there's a dashboard where you can see how well that data is being used, who's using it, and when. So there are ways within the platform where you can correlate data access and data processing behavior with customer experience metrics. And that's what we encourage as a best practice, to align the success of your data initiative directly with what are the KPIs you're using to track your business. So Becky, maybe you could talk more about how we do that here at Actian.
Yeah, absolutely. And Dominic, that was a great summary and exactly what I'd recommend too. And that's exactly what we're doing in Smart CX programs is we're aligning the KPIs to the metrics of the business that we're tracking, right? So even from the funnel side, how do we look at MQLs? How do we look at SQLs, right? How is that tying to the customer experience ultimately, which leads to churn, right? Which leads to retention, to CSAT. So I think Dominic is spot on, and how we're approaching it is aligning to the business, right? What's your business tracking, and how can you anchor into that or bring additional value metrics of what's relevant to the business?
All right. Yeah, thank you both. The next question that I have comes from Sarah. And what I'm going to do, I'll start with you again on this, Dominic, and obviously Becky. Feel free to chime in. But Sarah's question is, how do you handle pushback when clients don't want to optimize their data processes?
Yeah, we get this one a lot. So it's true, many organizations have implemented existing enterprise data warehouse with ETL and other data management and data governance practices over many years, over the last few decades. But what we found is during the new normal, the need to rapidly respond to new conditions in your market, the need to deliver new data and new insights to the front lines is very significant. And the cycle times that the business needs are so fast that those traditional ways of operating just can't keep up. If it takes weeks or months to add an attribute to your enterprise data warehouse to support the new customer engagement initiatives for people doing all their shopping online now, that's way too slow. So we do see a lot of organizations feeling that pain where the existing processes and the people who own those processes are just not able to pivot fast enough. But the good news is there are folks in the line of business, as I mentioned earlier, heads of customer experience, heads of sales and field operations, et cetera. They're the ones directly feeling the pain. So ideally, if you're engaging with a client who has this challenge with existing processes that are slow to change, work with those people who feel the pain, help them get the quick win. And fortunately, we've designed the Actian Cloud Data Platform for self-service by those business teams. The user experience is designed for that, and very high agility. You can get going with an initial analytics, customer experience analytics projects in days or even hours. It can be done very quickly in a self-service way by that team. Help them be successful, get that small win, and then within the customer organization, help that team highlight that small win to the rest of the organization. This is kind of change management 101, right? So how do you help an organization adopt change as you find the stakeholders feeling the pain and willing to make a change, help them get a small win, and then you advertise that small win. But it is different. We are definitely moving away from traditional ways of doing data management to a model which is highly self-service in the business teams, highly agile and iterative, with a lot of sharing of data assets across teams. You hear about data architecture principles out there like data fabrics and data meshes, which aim to help organizations implement that new style of data management. And the Actian Data Platform is indeed designed to align with those emerging best practices. Becky, I invite you to comment as well on what you've seen happen here at Actian and the customers you've worked with.
Yeah, I mean, I can speak maybe just more from experience on this. Yeah, so I think it's a very good question because there's always the pushback a little bit or, hey, things seem to be working well, right? Why should we change, right? To your point, Dominic, it is change management. What I found is really helpful is to actually socialize the data that we do have, right? Socialize the data and then bring the customer feedback into that data, right? So it's not just an internal perspective, it's also the voice of the customer, it's the customer commentary, it's beyond the survey data, but it's also those customer interviews or user interviews, right? To contextualize that information. And those are usually at least in my experience, the aha moments, right? And sometimes disbelief, right? In some cases where you have to kind of work through those next steps. So I think the more you can evangelize the data and present it in a productive way in in combination with the qualitative feedback from your customers can be really powerful for at least initiating some of the change process.
All right, thank you both. We had a follow-up from Linda. It came in during your portion of that answer, Dominic. Linda's question is, the metrics that you just mentioned, NPS, for example, is a lagging indicator. You can buy Chicago land accent there, lagging. Anyways, the question is, what real-time metrics do you recommend, if any, especially for any measuring value?
Okay, that was a follow-up to an answer I gave, so I can jump in on this one. Yes, that's true. NPS is usually the result of a survey. I was just giving some examples. Real time, something we use here at Actian, as we're heavy users of Pendo, which is sort of a real time user experience and customer experience types of applications that we embed. And it has a number of metrics around engagement scoring, which are real time in nature, and we have that feed our dashboard to make sure that as end users are using our data platform, that they are engaging with the right way, they aren't getting stuck somewhere, and they are able to get the data insights and output that they're looking for. But the answer of what real time metrics work for a given organization will vary by organization. For example, if your digital engagement includes smartphone apps, then you'll be gathering log data from those smartphone apps. If those apps allow for making transactions, purchasing product or service, then you'll be able to correlate those transactions with the user behavior within those apps. And then that can then be fed into your customer experience analytics. E-commerce also has weblogs. You can also get real-time metrics based on engagement with customer help desks and other touch points with your organization. So depending on the organization and the nature of your business and where and what parts of your organization have the most impact on an overall experience, there are different ways of measuring that and correlating that with other activities going on in your organization. Becky, help me out here. As a customer experience expert, how would you answer, what a real-time metrics make sense?
We must be in sync today, Dominic, because I was going to say the exact same thing about engagement, right? I think it's really powerful, for sure from a B2B perspective, which we're contextualized here a little bit with our own experience, is that engagement score, right? So whether it's Pendo, they've got some great tools and methodologies around that, or some other tools you're using, is that real-time engagement with your product, your service, right? So that I think is really powerful to see, not just their behaviors, where are they going to, where are they getting stuck, but it's more around how engaged are they, how are they adopting, how are they going to the next step, right? And that can be really powerful information to look at. So I would also double down on the engagement.
Great.
All right. Well, let's see here. Here we go. We had another one come in during that answer from Laura. Laura's question is, can too much data sharing jeopardize the security of siloed data? Or is that just one of our hurdles? And would that go to you first, Becky? We can start with you on that. Okay, we'll get Dominic on this.
All right, putting on my security hat here. So that's a really good question, right? Everybody wants to democratize data and put insights in the hands of everybody in the organization, but you got to balance that with data privacy and related regulations and keep that data safe. It's always a balance, and I think most organizations do have to comply with GDPR, which is the data privacy regulation out of Europe, and even here in the United States, it's state by state, but California has equivalent legislation, and in other parts of the world. And it's also good for business. You want to be able to demonstrate to your customers that you take their protection and their privacy seriously. We've seen what happens when there are breaches and the knock-on effects on that organization's business. So fortunately, the Avalanche data platform does include a number of capabilities to help with security. We encrypt all data at rest. Customers can bring their own keys so they can encrypt in their own way. And that encryption is fine-grained. You can redact by column, by record, by schema, etc. And additionally, we also support dynamic masking. So if you have a single data set that may be used by numerous different stakeholders in the organization, and different stakeholders may need to see different attributes that are sensitive in order to do their jobs. For example, your help desk needs to know the identity of the customer they're speaking with. So name and phone number, et cetera. Back in finance, they may not, but they're going to have to clear a payment. So at some point, the credit card number has to be visible. So that's just one example. So we have dynamic masking where, depending on the identity or the role of the client, who is initiating that query, then we can on the fly do the right redaction of the result set. So those are all supported within the platform. And of course, if you already use existing data de-identification technology, there are various ways to hook that into the platform. We have open APIs, user-defined functions are possible as well. So there are various ways to hook in third-party capability. But what we found is all of our customers, our own out-of-the-box functionality has been sufficient for them to be able to confidently claim they comply with regulations and they can keep customer data safe.
All right. That is all the questions. That is all the questions that we have right now. So I'll let you both off the hot seat, Becky and Dominic. Thank you both for taking time to be here with us today. I really appreciate all the preparation that was put into this presentation. It's been great working with you. And once more, another shout out to Actian for sponsoring and making today's webinar possible. We appreciate their support here at CMS Wire. And again, you can find out more at actian.com. Thank you all in the audience for your participation and attendance. We appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedules and joining us. This webinar was recorded. You're going to receive a link to that and a follow-up email, so keep an eye on your inbox for that. But in the meantime, thanks once more to everybody on the line. We'll see you on the next one.
Thank you,
everyone.